Today we are going to walk through the relativity integration pieces within Altorney. The first piece of the integration comes about when you are setting up a new case. When you set up a new case, if the technology that's picked as the review technology is relativity, then the relativity button becomes available. Within the relativity integration, you can go ahead and specify the relativity instance and the credentials. Many people will either use their personal credentials, which will use the security settings assigned to that account, or they will set up a separate service account or audit account that is specifically used by Altorney and then grant that account access to specific workspaces that Altorney is going to be integrating with. Once those credentials are entered and confirmed, then the list of workspaces becomes available that account has access to, and you'll associate the proper workspace in relativity with the proper case that it is going to be used within Altorney. The next piece is the user can decide whether or not to allow Altorney to help manage relativity users and whether or not we can access the relativity audit logs in order to capture time and metrics information. So how does this work? When you are going ahead and setting up a reviewer type, which is the request that is made for a specific set of users, one of the options when setting it up is the relativity integration. Here, you will assign, the system will go ahead and look within the workspace and see what are all the different security groups that are available within that specific workspace. And you will decide which security group the users, the reviewers who are being added for this specific reviewer type, which security group are they going to be assigned to? So here we're going to pick level 1, and that is the security group that any of the 5 reviewers who apply and are accepted onto this case would go ahead and get assigned into that group. The way that works is when a reviewer is made active, so you accept them on the case, Relativity will report back to us whether or not that user already exists within the relativity environment. If it does not, we will create that user, send them out their username and password based off of your security settings, and then we will add them to the appropriate group and give them access to that workspace. When a case is completed, or when you have to remove a reviewer from a specific case, you'll click the disable button, pick the reason why they're being removed, and when you go ahead and submit that user and remove them from the case in Altorney, the system will go ahead and check in relativity to see does that user exist within any other workspace. If they don't, the system will disable that user. If the user does exist within other workspaces, the system will then simply remove that user from this specific workspace so that they still have access to the other workspaces that they have access to, just no longer have access to this case. So that is how the user management works within Altorney and Relativity. The next piece is, while the case is ongoing, the system will be tracking how many documents that reviewer reviewed in a given day and overall for the case, and what their average doc per hour rate is. So then if I go into any given user, I can go ahead and see the details and the metrics around this specific user. How many documents have they reviewed on any given day? How many, what their rate was for that day. I can go in and see it in a little bit more detail here for each individual day and make my determinations of how well a reviewer is performing according to those metrics. The last piece of the current functionality with the relativity integration is in regards to time approval. So here I have a bunch of users who I've already approved most of their time, but you can see that the system reports, if you have the relativity integration turned on, how long each individual user was in the system on any given day. And we can use that to compare to how long the reviewer billed for that given day. We have the ability to set thresholds. So right now it's set to an hour or 2 hours, that if the difference between what the review platform reported versus what the reviewer reported is more than an hour, it'll get a warning. If it's more than 2 hours, it'll get an alert. If we want to see it with a little bit of a shorter threshold, I can do this. And here you can see this is between 30 minutes and 60 minutes, so it's getting a yellow warning, versus this one is an hour long, so it's telling us that it is in red, that, hey, you should probably double check this user or talk to them to figure out why there's such a large difference in their platform time versus what they billed for. I have the ability to set it by percentage. If I want to say, okay, if their time is off by more than 10% versus 20%, and I can also do it on the overall weekly roll-up of their time to say if their overall time for a week is more than 5 hours or 10 hours, or adjust this to whatever I want it to be, and create those warnings based off of whatever the time that's being reported. So those are the current, as of May 2023, those are the current pieces of integration between Altorney and Relativity.